Okay, I'm going to call us to order. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Salem-Keizer School Board, February 14th, 2017, in Sports Services Center, Room 2, 2575 Commercial Street, Southeast Salem, Oregon. It's about 7 o'clock. First thing on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Christy, can you call the roll?
Nancy McMorris Audix.
Here.
Paul Kylo.
Here.
Chris Brantley.
Here.
Marty Hyen.
Here.
Jim Green.
Here.
Rick Kimball.
Here.
And Mr. Lee is out this evening.
For agenda modifications, the board plates for items 7A and B have been updated to reflect an updated meeting schedule for board meetings on March 14th and to reflect a change of location for the facility task force meetings. There are copies at the dais for board members and copies on the table for patrons. So I think Christy passed out changes. We have no spotlights on success tonight. So we'll move right into audience communications on agenda items only. Just waiting to see if anyone signed up. Kelly, did you want to sing just a little for us while we're waiting? I'd do it too, but you know, you're better at it. Oh, great. So first person on the agenda is Phil Decker, then Benny Williams, then Will Collins, talking on equity. So let me remind you that you need to limit your comments to 3 minutes. We use timers, which are right here on the table. When the yellow light turns on, you have 30 seconds to finish speaking. Okay. When the red light turns on, your time is up. We've asked Paul Dikopoulos to watch the time for us. Please state your name and address for the record. We just had a conversation about how welcoming we are, so it seemed really quite interesting that the first thing I do is don't talk too long.
Okay. Okay. Good evening, School Board and Superintendent Perry. My name is Phil Decker. I live at 4289 44th Court Northeast in Salem. I also live at 500 Elma Avenue Southeast, where I'm principal at Four Corners Elementary. I'm in my 20th year serving Salem-Keizer Public Schools, first as a newcomer English language learner teacher at Waldo, and for the last 15 years as an elementary principal in high-needs Title I schools. I also come to you as the grandson of Romanian immigrants who fled pogroms and then watched from afar as family members perished in the Holocaust. I come to you as someone who grew up in Washington, D.C. area during the riots and the first steps towards desegregation. I come to you as someone who has worked closely with and married into our Latino community. I've always had a connection with vulnerable communities and a desire to work for social justice. I applaud the board passing the resolution last month to ensure safe and welcoming schools. I'm also a fan of the equity work that we and you are embarked on, led by our superintendent and our equity officer. Over the years, I've appreciated the assistance provided by the CSOCs from Instructional Services, Community School Outreach Coordinators, who are on the front lines of our equity work. For example, our Marshallese CSOC came out to Four Corners to observe a second grade student who had recently arrived from the islands. He was running around the classroom, outside of the classroom, jumping on students, and the CSOC coached him, and he is now thriving. Our Russian CSOC hosts the district's Russian school at Four Corners every Thursday afternoon, where 40-plus students from across the district learn their language and culture. A similar program for Pacific Islanders was just launched at Sweigel. Further, I'm pleased to learn that the district hired an Arabic-speaking CSOC to support our community's newest refugee families. Our district has CSOCs to serve Latino, Native American, Marshallese, Chukis, Russian, and Arab-speaking communities, but not for our African American community. I think we need to institutionalize support for our African American students as well. Our data shows that the overall dropout rate in 14-15 was 3.8% for all students compared to 10.4% for African American students, almost 3 times as high. An African American CSOC would support students, families, and schools when incidents of harassment and discrimination arise. An African American CSOC could provide data analysis and professional development to staff to improve our service to the African American community. An African American CSOC could create after-school programs that provide tutoring, mentoring, and a sense of cultural identity. An African American CSOC could collaborate with local community organizations to provide students with scholarship and college prep opportunities. By creating an African American CSOC position, we can send the message to our African American community that we, as a district, are committed to their success as well. I'm here tonight to help make this vision a reality, and I thank you for all the work you do for our kids, our families, and for our staff.
Thank you. Next, Benny Williams.
Hi, good evening. I'm Benny Williams. I'm the president of the Salem-Keizer branch of the NAACP. I live in Southeast Salem. And I've got several comments I'd like to share with the board and with the superintendent. In fact, it supports 100% of what Mr. Phil Decker just shared with us. You know, we've got a school district that continues to be making progress, but it's at a snail's pace. I would tell you, as I share with you my comments tonight, as I look at this board, it's been a year or so since I've been here last. But I can tell you, the face of this board is no different than the last time I was here. It's no different than the previous times I've been here. And what that means is, as we can have a discussion on equity lens, we need to understand that as you consider putting that into policy, we also need what one of the board members said earlier this evening, we need to have more faces of color in the room and on this board and in the decision-making processes. I can tell you that I'm pleased with the progress that's been made under Christy Perry as the new superintendent, because there's been steps both internally within the district and outside of the district insofar as being involved in the community and having some discussions. But we've got to go further, and I think we need to move a little bit more quickly to have that happen. The data that Phil just shared with us about the dropout rate, that's unacceptable. But you know, I would tell you, we continue to see the African American community being on the short end of the stick, insofar as having resources both for the students and for the parents that they can call on and feel comfortable in calling on. CSOP is all about having a person who can work with a particular group of our community and make sure that they have an individual who can answer the questions and direct them toward the resources that they need to have their children successful in this school district. The African American community here, if you look at the data, we're talking about 1% in the student body, we're talking about another 4 or 5% in mixed race. And so when you take those two numbers together, you look at the third largest group in the Salem-Keizer School District. And we're not one in which that currently has support on a focused in a focused manner to have the help that's needed. These dropouts are not occurring arbitrarily. They're occurring because these students are not feeling engaged or supportive by this district. And that means this board is responsible just as much as the individual schools, principals, and faculties in the schools are responsible. How do we correct that? We correct that by bringing more visibility and more of a quicker timetable on bringing attention and support to this community. And until that happens, I think we're going to continue to suffer through unacceptable dropout rates. When the district is doing well, we all do well. But we're seeing data that shows that the African American students are not participating or not part of this improved dropout rate that we've talked about here tonight. It's important, and the NAACP, through our education committee, and through in general, as we've talked through in our meetings about issues in the city and being on the same page, having support, cumulative support, to move forward in ways in which it's going to improve our collective community, education is one of those issues and one of those places. And we're getting a complete consensus, a majority consensus of the education system in Salem-Keizer is not doing as much for the African American community and the students as we should be. It's important, and I think some of the people that's here in the audience tonight truly understand that we're committed to doing as a community and with this board and with the superintendent and the district all that we can to improve the collective good of this community, of Salem-Keizer and Salem-Keizer School District. But we need help, and I think this CSOP is one of the areas that can help improve the responsiveness and improve the outcomes for the African American community. And I want to encourage all of us, both at the board level and certainly in the community, that we work together to find a way, either finding the funds that support such a move to create that position, or find means within the budget to have funds that can help us improve this outcome. The data is there. There's no confusion about what the data is showing. What's unclear is the commitment of moving a little bit quicker than what we've been doing to improve these outcomes. And I certainly would want to have you understand that it's the intention of the NAACP, because that organization, this organization, is all about the collective spirit and improvement of our community. I have to tell new members that the NAACP is not a black organization. In fact, it wasn't founded literally by blacks. It was founded by a collective of whites, Jews, and others that brought this entity into being more than 107 years ago. So we're still about the mission of making sure we're all inclusive, but there's a stark, clear data showing that the African American student body here continues to be disadvantaged, or at least not having the resources it needs to improve its outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you. Will Collins?
Good evening, board members and Superintendent Perry. My name is William Collins. I live at 1150 Alpine Avenue, Northwest Salem. I am currently a classified employee with Salem-Keizer School District. I fully support the idea of an African-American CSOC to represent our African-American community. From my own personal experience of being an African-American student in Salem-Keizer, I would have greatly benefited from having somebody on staff that looked like me and related to me. As a sophomore in high school, I was being called racial slurs on a daily basis. Eventually, you will learn to ignore the ignorance, but once I began getting phone calls and voicemails of Confederate chants and telling me I'll be hung by a tree if I returned to school, I began to skip school out of fear and shame. Eventually, my behavior specialist called me to his office and asked why I was skipping class. I played him one of the many messages, and he immediately became irate and told me this will not be tolerated in his school. Myself and the other student were both suspended. When we returned to school, it was business as usual. Nothing had changed. I became another statistic that dropped out of school. I share my story for the community, our family, our staff, and the students that are currently going through these issues. We all would benefit from having a staff member that can bridge the gap with our African-American community by communicating with families affected by discrimination and hate speech, and giving tools to other students and their families to deal with this ugly problem. Staff will also benefit from trainings designed to target race issues and open up discussions. We're doing great work in our schools, thank you, and I'd like to thank the people behind the scenes doing the hard work day in and day out.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is action items. We have none. the adoption of the consent calendar. Those items are taken as a whole, usually, unless anyone on the board needs to pull anything. Anyone need to pull anything? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I move to adopt as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the consent calendar. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have no readings tonight. Our first report is a monitoring report, EL8, Financial Administration. Superintendent Perry.
This is the 8th of 12 monitoring reports scheduled for the 16-17 school year and is designed to provide the board with information to determine if the superintendent is meeting the criteria established within the adopted executive limitations. This is executive limitation 8, financial administration. And I'm going to just scan quickly because there is a evidence of noncompliance on this report. So if you go to the second page, number 6, failed to provide quarterly financial reports that include a recap of changes between the current and previous report and expenditures, revenue or enrollment, and a projected ending fund balance. And the evidence of non-compliance is that we've had a change in our director of finance, and we missed a couple of reports to you. We were in the middle of our year-end activities and our CAFR preparation and some changes within our budget software, but at the end of the day, we missed the 2 financial reports to you. What I'll tell you is with the change of director of finance, we have a much clearer picture of our finances as we have implemented some additional software systems within our financial system that is tracking our, especially our positions more closely and our expenditures more closely. So it's that upgrade in our technology, or the use of fully of our technology, that's really helping us with that. So it was a lot of data input in the beginning, and we missed 2 things that were on our reports that should have been to you. So for that, I apologize, but I wanted to also alert you to it.
So I'll remind the board, these are collectively part of the superintendent's evaluation, and we typically look for an acceptance of the report or a non-acceptance. Seeing acceptance. Great. Next thing on our agenda is the strategic plan report, implement strategies for using technology to improve teaching and learning. And it looks like Mr. Silva is up.
Good evening, Superintendent Perry, Chair of McMorris Audix, and members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'm honored that you guys would spend your Valentine's Day with me. I'll try to keep my presentation under a couple hours if that fits your schedule. So Strategic Plan 6 is the implementation of strategies for using technology to improve teaching and learning. Quick overview of tonight. We'll be providing you an update on the strategic investments we made in infrastructure over the last 2 years. I'll give you a review of the E-rate funding and status that we've used to pay for some of those infrastructure investments. We'll discuss our services and support strategies, talk about computer replacement, improving access to technology for students, and then I want to share with you a vision of how we can use our data to improve teaching and learning through the equity conversation, and also with NAACP representative. I heard data, data, data all over many times. So I want to share this vision of how we can start to look at and use that data and learn from the data. So the infrastructure report that I gave last year, a lot of these were in progress at the time. So network upgrades, we're currently replacing all the network switches in the network. That actually starts tomorrow night at one of our high schools to upgrade all the switching network and improve the internal capacity within the school buildings. All the portables and instructional areas were physically wired for network, so we don't have portables using wireless connectivity back to the main building. They all now have fiber connectivity or other forms of wired connectivity. So it's much more robust, much more stable learning environment out in those portables. And we were able to use E-rate funding to save about $2.4 million on those investments. We also expanded the wireless infrastructure from about 500 access points to over 2,000. And that's kind of like a field of dreams, build it and they will come. And when we started that project, we had about 10,000 wireless devices on our network at any one time. Already we're at 20,000 devices in 1 year's time. So you can extrapolate that out. Again, taking advantage of E-rate, we have submitted an application to continue the expansion up to nearly 3,000 wireless access points. So we'll find out about that in the next couple months. Of course, the wireless provided robust connectivity to every building, every classroom. And we also use E-rate to save about $700,000 on that. And with the expansion, it'll be about another $700,000 saved with the E-rate funding. We replaced our 40-year-old telephone systems, which were costing a lot of money and becoming extremely difficult to find parts for. And there's not a whole lot of 40-year-old telephone parts out there on eBay nowadays. So that was a good upgrade for us, and that put a phone into every building and every classroom. And we also made data center upgrades to pretty much ensure continuous operations. So during power outages and other such events, we're able to maintain operations for the school district. So email, student information system, other services such as that can survive localized or even district-wide power outages. And in effect, we estimate that we reduced our operating cost by nearly 70% with power efficiencies, different HVAC, much more efficient, and just a different way to look at running our data center. So, if you remember from last year, we talked about dark fiber. So dark fiber is pretty much fiber optic cable, which is what the internet runs on nowadays, that is self-provisioned to the school district. So it's not what would also be termed lit service from a commercial provider. Most of us at home that have Comcast or something like that may have lit service. Dark fiber is just referring to the fact that we own it and we light it ourselves. So we submitted an application last year. We put out an RFP for a $15 million fiber infrastructure build out. We submitted it to E-rate, and that was funded. We learned at the end of December that $12 million of those costs will be funded for us. And if you remember, you also set aside $1 million seed money in last year's budget. So that will be part of the work for this year, is how to move forward with that project. The fiber investment will set the district up for a minimum of 20 to 30 years and save millions of dollars over that time. It's an excellent infrastructure investment. So talk about E-rate. That's a federal program of the Schools and Library Division of USAC, which is provides pretty much subsidized funding for telecommunication and information services. For our school district, at our free and reduced lunch rates, it's about an 80% discount. So 20 cents on the dollar in some of these investments that we're making. Over the course of the last 5 years, including the fiber project, so we're looking forward just a little bit, E-rate will have saved the school district over $23 million. So pretty significant program. We're hoping that it will continue on into the future. Now I want to talk about the services and support, which provides the bridge between technology and the classroom. We provide a lot of application development, so sometimes the work that we're trying to do, you can't buy a product off the shelf to be able to do it. So we have the luxury of having an application development team where we can develop those solutions ourselves in-house. You see that with our data warehouse, our counselor tracking application, and many other internal applications that we've built internally to meet our needs. Business intelligence, which is just a fancy word for data analytics. That's part of that vision of data that you'll see a theme growing throughout my presentation on what that can look like for the school district. Computer and device replacement, technology purchasing, our support processes, professional development, which all of my staff take part in for both classified and licensed staff members, and then curriculum integration. That's what my 3 licensed staff members on my team provide within the classroom itself. So the professional development is pretty much teaching how to use the technology. The curriculum integration efforts show them how to integrate that into their curriculum. And then we all know that parent and community engagement is critical, and our website services are one of the ways that we involve them in the work that we're doing. So we've also taken on website services as some of the strategies that we're using for improving teaching and learning. I'll give you a second to read that. Imagine if 100 teachers out of nearly 2,400 had a 30-minute interruption in their school day due to a technical problem. Over the course of a year, that equates to every student losing out on nearly a full day of instruction. Just 100 teachers a day. We get about 200 tickets a day, so I split it classified license to come up with that calculation. The reality is it's probably much greater impact than that, because we take in about 40,000 tickets a year. This is 1.5 years worth of data. So I'm estimating that it's probably about 40,000 technical support tickets that we process every year. But this is a good example of data. You're not going to be able to see the numbers as good as I would hope that you would, but along the bottom it's a time-based. So along the bottom is starting from the left, June or July 2015 all the way up to this month. Red on top is number of tickets opened, gray or green on the bottom is number of tickets closed. But something that I learned from this data, and a few of them were clear, I don't know if that's visible on there. So if we look at August of 2015, there was about 2,500 tickets open. And if we compare that to August of 2016, there was about 4,500, I believe, somewhere around there, tickets open. Over the summer, we migrated the district to Windows 10. So we expected an increase of tickets when staff came back from summer, because we completely disrupted the whole system by rebooting every computer, so to speak. And with that, what we also learned that in closing tickets in 2015 for both August and September, my team with less staff was able to close an additional 1,000 tickets a month. So as a director of that program, I can see that the efficiency and productivity of my staff has increased significantly from the year prior. We can also see that from the computers that were installed in this time frame, that our ticket counts are reducing on a regular basis by an average of 500 tickets a month compared to the previous year. And that goes into the next slide when we talk about some of the age of our computers. So we covered this last year. Problem still exists. Every year, we'll have more and more computers get older. So right now, we're sitting about 4,500 computers. Last year, I think it was about 6,000 computers that I reported to you. So we did make progress. But again, some of that progress is hidden by the fact that these years were not investment years during the hard times that hit all school districts. But each year that we don't catch up, we again fall further behind. So items to the right, you can see we've made some pretty significant investments in 2015 for our computing resources. And this is not a complete picture. That's a more complete picture of what we look like today. So I separated out Chromebooks, which are conceptually they're computers, but they really considered devices, much like a phone or an iPad. So I separated them out and put them into different. All the numbers at the bottom are the same as the previous slide. So you can see we've made significant investment in the number of devices that we have available for student. Yes, Paul?
I want to make sure I understand your chart, because I have a question about the repair rate for the devices,
Okay.
the Chromebooks. Is the kind of yellowish bar, whatever color you would call that, you're saying up there 17,000 student devices were added, so that's an additional 17,000. Then the next one, if I read it right, says 3,000 were replaced. Is that because they were destroyed, broken, needed repair?
They were the 9 and 10-year-old.
Okay, so what
They were the 9 through 12-year-old computers.
Okay, what is the repair rate or the breakage rate or whatever on the Chromebooks?
when
Do
we
we
have
know
this
yet?
data vision fully implement on the Chromebooks?
Yeah, the Chromebooks.
0.5%, if that.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's
if a
over-
Chromebook stops working, it's either 100% dead, in which case it's a consumable device. You either warranty,
Okay.
try to warranty it, replace it yourself, or fix it, or they have a built-in key sequence to basically reset back to factory defaults.
Okay.
99.9% of the time, the factory reset boots them right back up and puts them into production.
And what's the life of a Chromebook?
5 years is what I would consider the maximum
Okay.
life,
That's what I
because they are using smaller processors and cheaper internals,
Okay.
so they won't last nearly as long.
Great. Okay, thank you.
So again, over 17,000 student devices and Chromebooks have been added over the last 2 years. That's the beige and 3,000 staff devices. The blues are the same. It just differentiates between laptop and desktop. So dark blue is desktop, light blue laptop. Continued annual investments of $3 million would catch us up, keep us current, and ensure students are learning the 21st century skills they will need to be successful in the workplace. So what would that look like over the next 5 years? So again, using data, and this isn't predictive data, this is a mocked up model that I put together, but what that looks like is, again, Chromebooks are the beige, staff and student PCs would be the blue, and that would bring us up to about 37,500 student devices. Right now, we have about 1 device for every 3 students. This would put us at nearly a 1-to-1 device ratio. So the challenge that exists in the classrooms right now is, even though we did have a large influx of devices into the school district, they're shared around multiple classrooms, which makes it very difficult for a teacher to embed those technologies into their pedagogy.
And are these devices used only in school?
Yes.
So I have a question. So throughout the district, then, we're using Chromebooks, which of course require an internet connection, but at early college, they use iPads, and I was just curious why they use iPads when the rest of the district is using Chromebooks.
Because they implemented a device before, so they've been on iPads for 3 or 4 years now, and they will be moving to a 1-to-1 Chromebook model very soon. And you can't see the years there, but it's 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So it's projecting what it could look like for the next 5 years with that and continued investment. So again, painting the picture of data. To understand and learn from our data, we've got to be able to look at it from several different angles to validate our assumptions and make better decisions from that data. This is part of our continuous improvement efforts. We do a survey for every help desk ticket. Not all of them get filled out. So this does answer some questions about our survey responses. It tells us that generally we're doing pretty good. The blues represent the strongly agree and agree answers to those questions. The orange represents the strongly disagree and disagree answers to those questions. What it doesn't answer is how many responses were there. So you saw we've closed 60,000 tickets. Is that 60,000 responses? In reality, it's 1,200 responses. So this view of the data doesn't answer the question. It also doesn't answer what may be some of the why factors behind those negative responses. So if we pivot the data and look at it in a different manner, we can start to see on the left side, strongly agree, agree, disagree, strongly disagree, and across the bottom is the timeline of responses. You can see that start of school is where customers become most unhappy with our performance, which is to be expected when we get 6,000 tickets in 1 month. We just can't respond that fast. So for me, it tells me that while it's not great, what can we do to improve that, educating staff on how long it takes, that it's going to be longer response times, et cetera, but it's understandable. So leading up to using analytics to drive outcomes, put put this together. So the blue line is the vision of where I see us going and benefiting from this work. So moving from hindsight to insight to foresight, looking at our data, and changing the scope from organizational view to a school view to a classroom view all the way down to the student. A lot of that has to do with the early warning indicators for at-risk students and being able to identify those earlier. And throughout K-12 spectrum, we also know what many of those other indicators are for where students are at in their learning in general. So as we move from what happened, so descriptive analytics, into why did it happen, diagnostic, that we already do pretty well. We have our data warehouse, we have many other systems that provide that information to us. Where I propose that we move is up into the predictive analytics, so what is going to happen, all the way up to prescriptive analytics, which tells us how to control what will happen, or helps us be able to develop systems and processes to do that. So just some quick examples of how we can look at our data. So this is historical data of our demographics that have changed over the last 18 years. So from 1997 to 2015, this is our demographic data from ODE. We can look at current data, so that's a geographical map of Salem-Keizer, all of our schools and their building ages. And the gradient color indicates the age as well as the number next to it. I apologize that it's not big enough. We need a 50-inch or 50-foot screen in here. But again, just looking at data and how can we visualize data differently. We have this in an Excel spreadsheet, but for me, as a visual learner, that's much more informative to be able to just look at that and compare visually to the data sets.
Could I get a copy of the slides?
Yes. And this is where it starts to become really powerful for the school district is, again, when we can start to predict. That is not Salem-Keizer data. It is not even a real dashboard. It's one that's been mocked up to provide a representative sample of what a predictive analytics dashboard could look like for a school district. And then finally, prescriptive data analytics is combining data analytics and learning analytics to pretty much achieve personalized learning, where the systems are telling us how we can help each individual student along their learning path. And that is my presentation.
Are there questions?
I just have one. Robert, you mentioned a $3 million investment. Was that per year?
Yes.
Would bring us up to?
It would catch us up as well as maintain us.
Okay.
Chris?
Follow up to that. How much did we invest last year?
$3 million.
So that's a prediction that if we could continue the same level of support.
Correct.
Okay. I'm looking at this and I'm asking myself the question. We just had this work session talking about cultural responsiveness and building relationships with students and parents and helping students in sort of those affective ways as opposed to pedagogical ways. Have you thought at all about how we might measure that kind of interaction or that kind of information in our school district?
Have I thought about it? Yes. Do I have the answers yet? No.
Okay.
So this is the beginning of our journey. We're in the planning stages. I don't know where it will take us, but I know it's the right direction for us to go as a school district.
Because one of the big issues that we always have in results policies and writing them is the idea that they have to be measurable in some way.
Right.
And we can say that we have to have relationships with students and families that are productive and supportive and engaging and all those kinds of words, but trying to measure that and put it in any kind of a dashboard gets pretty problematic. So anything you can do to solve that one, I'm interested.
Right. And that'll be a component of using this data is we already have the quantitative systems in place that can capture the data. It's also including what systems don't we have in place that may be able to capture the qualitative data, such as something that would measure that. much more difficult challenge, but that'll hopefully be part of the whole picture.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
You said that, I think I heard you say there were you had three curriculum people who are licensed staff in your department who work with curriculum integration in the classroom?
Yep.
For the whole district? Three?
The whole district. 3.
That does not seem like quite enough.
It's more than 0.
It is. It seems to me like 3 more than 0.
Yes. That's not sufficient, so we are looking at ways of how do we scale the work that they're doing. Right now, we've been focused on the personalized classroom interactions. Now we're starting to ask questions, realizing there's only 3 and 2,500 teachers. How do we scale that effort?
Do we still have people in buildings who are kind of identified as the technology person?
Generally, yes.
The other 2 questions really are not so much about your report, but about technology in the district. And if you don't have answers, it's okay. I have heard from families that if you're qualify for free and reduced lunch, you qualify for internet at a significantly decreased rate.
There are many programs out there, Verizon, Comcast, most of the cell phone companies offer a program. There's catches. So while they're great programs, I would definitely advise reading the fine print.
And do we do anything to help our families understand or navigate those?
We have asked that question before, but I don't think we've answered it to our satisfaction, no.
Okay. The other question I have is kind of similar, and that is, do we have any kind of programs or that utilize the district to help with not using our funding, but connecting students to programs that might help them get devices for home use at lower cost?
That's a good question. I know programs do exist. One of the challenges that we'll have as a school district is, since they're driven by vendors, we are then selecting or preferring specific vendors. So that's where it gets cloudy.
Seems like you already are. I mean, I saw information about Chromebooks. You've already picked a vendor.
Correct. This is more along the lines of advertising a specific program. We have discussed how can we distribute information about those programs effectively across the whole school district.
Okay, great, thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next thing on our agenda is the information of upcoming board meetings, which is on page 7A. Our next board meeting is a 6 p.m. work session to continue the conversation on equity, for which I might remind you, you've been given homework. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the school board is March 14th, and it will start with an executive session at 5 o'clock. And the next page, you have your facilities task force meetings that are held at 2450 Lancaster Drive. The next one being Monday, the 20th. Oh, they've been moved here.
It's updated on this one.
Oh, thank you. I thought I had the updated, but I guess I didn't. So those facilities task force meetings are now in this room on Monday nights at 6 o'clock. Next thing on the agenda is audience communication on non-agenda items. Thank you. So we have a number of people signed up. First is Mindy Merritt.
I'm going to ask my members to come up also. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, and happy Valentine's Day. My name is Mindy Merritt, and I reside at 2381 Teal Drive, Southeast. And I'm here to speak to you tonight as the president of Salem-Keizer Education Association. Tonight, we stand in front of you, representing the 2,400 members of our association, to share with you an affirmation that was unanimously passed by our building representatives at our last representative meeting. This affirmation comes from our schools affirming that our association is a welcoming and inclusive union.
The affirmation begins like this. The Salem-Keizer Education Association boldly states and reaffirms that we are a welcoming and inclusive union who unequivocally and without reservation will do everything within the scope of our ability to protect all of our students, their families, our members, and our extended community from any efforts by both individuals and entities meant to harm and prevent engagement and participation in a safe and caring educational environment.
This official statement recognizes our duty to affirm and protect the rights of students of all backgrounds and cultures, urge policy and/or legislation protecting the immigrant children and their families, to support and defend the inalienable rights of the LGBTQIA+ students, youth, and adults from incursions of conversion therapy, discrimination, and restroom restrictions that attempt to curb the right of existence of these individuals, to oppose a registry of any form that would detail and add to any database the personal information of individuals based on religious membership or affiliation, and or that would target or ban any of our friends, families, and associates from exercising in their freedom of religion, and work to resist the over-criminalization of students of color within our criminal justice system by interrupting the school-to-prison pipeline.
Additionally, the Board of Directors of the Salem-Keizer Education Association supports its members' constitutionally protected freedoms to choose to peacefully and nonviolently stand in solidarity with those community partners who reflect our values and work to promote social justice and equity for our most vulnerable constituents.
The rationale. The Southern Poverty Law Center, in a recently published report, placed Oregon in the top 10 states with the most reported incidents of hate and intimidation nationwide in the 10 days following the election of our then president-elect, with two of the most frequently cited places where these hate incidents took place being in K-12 and university settings. The publication Willamette Week drilled deeper in their article and placed Oregon at the top of that list, given that Oregon's total population of 4 million people is well below the population of the other much larger states, thereby giving Oregon the notorious distinction of leading the country in per capita hate incidents. The reality of our city, state, and country for people who are targets of hate is deplorable, and our reaction to these conditions is telling of our privilege and status. Even our smallest actions can either be complicit with the status quo and institutional racism, or be seen as an opportunity to give voice to the voiceless, strength to the weak, value to those seen as undesirable, and freedom for all. This motion passed with all the fervor it deserved on behalf of not only our local community, but all of our nation's students, families, and residents, whereby fulfilling our mission to assure quality public education for every student by providing a strong, positive voice for educators.
It was recognized within our affirmation that our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Martin Luther King Jr. As Zoe shared, this was unanimously approved within our representative assembly after an evening of our board of directors working diligently to ensure that we were embracing the language and really adding to what was important and what we stand for as members. It is with great pride that tonight, as an association, we stand here. And we have for each of you on the board and the district representatives a plaque that affirms our welcoming and inclusive union, because we want to join beside you in sharing and ensuring that our schools are safe and welcoming places, not only for our students, but for our members as well. Thank you. And if you guys would help hand out plaques.
Thank you all for that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tyler.
Our next speaker is Yadira, and forgive me, I can't quite read the writing. Juarez, I don't think it is.
Good evening, Chair, board members, and Superintendent. My name is Yadira Juarez, and I live in North Salem. I have 3 children in that district. I am here tonight to represent the Salem-Keizer Coalition for Equality. We want to tell you how happy we are to see the teachers' union in full agreement with the school district and the board of directors to make our district fully welcoming, inclusive, and free from bullying and racism for everyone, including immigrants and refugees, no matter where they are from. When we all put our children's best interest in as our first priority, we can all work together to make our children safe, secure, and successful. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Lucia Sanchez.
Buenas tardes, miembros de la mesa directiva y superintendente.
Good afternoon, members of the board and superintendent.
Mi nombre es Lucía Sánchez y yo vivo en el noreste de Salem.
My name is Lucia Sanchez and I live in Northeast Salem.
Tengo 2 hijos en el distrito escolar.
I have 2 children in the school district.
Esta tarde yo también estoy aquí para representar la coalición para la igualdad de Salem-Keizer.
This afternoon, I'm also here to represent the coalition for Salem-Keizer.
Como una madre y facilitadora, yo quiero decir que tengo 5 años en la coalición.
As a mother and facilitator, I want to say that I have 5 years in the coalition.
Y con la colaboración del distrito he trabajado con cientos de familias latinas.
And with the collaboration of the school district, I have worked with hundreds of Latino families.
Yo puedo decir que todas estas familias van a estar muy contentas de escuchar esta resolución.
I can tell you that all these families are going to be very happy to hear this resolution.
Sabiendo este compromiso de los maestros.
Knowing teachers' commitment.
Haciendo que el distrito incluya a los inmigrantes y refugiados, no importando de dónde vengan.
Making sure that the district and the teachers include refugees and immigrants, no matter where they come from.
Yo les doy las gracias a nombre de todos los padres de familia. Gracias por escucharme.
I thank you on behalf of all parents. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Benny Williams, did you want to come back?
Board, thank you for another opportunity of coming forward. As I spoke with you about a separate subject, earlier, I'd like to invite and share with you all something that we can all participate in. You know, we're literally in the middle of February. February is African American History Month or Black History Month. The Salem-Keizer School District has not historically had the district through the schools reflect any programs for in recognition of African American History Month. What I've put before you all, McKay High School is, the students at McKay High School are performing a play this coming Sunday. And I want to invite you all, and I certainly want to invite the audience to be aware of this. It's one of the few times that I'm aware of, and certainly for this month, that has a special program coming forward. What I put in front of you is a flyer that says McKay, Royal Scots, and the Salem-Keizer NAACP presents, quote unquote, a celebration of Black history, a birthday salute to Rosa Parks, celebration of Black lives. This is Sunday, February the 19th, 2017 at McKay High School Auditorium, 2440 Lancaster Drive Northeast in Salem. The time is 6 to 9 p.m. The doors open at 5:30. Reception after the performance. The ticket costs are $10 for adults. Students of McKay High School are free. Any student that has an ID from McKay High School will be admitted free, but other students and children is $5 per person. What I want to share with the board and with the audience here is that African American history is real, is substantive, and it continues. The fact that this district has not had the schools, as far as I'm aware of, I want to be careful about this, not recognized during the course of February. Black History Month is a month recognized nationally. This is not a local or state reflected time of the year. This has been in place for a long, long time, and I'm not aware of the district promoting African American History Month at all. So here's an opportunity for the board, for all of us that's interested in helping to recognize the contributions of African Americans to our society. This play by McKay High School students is really something I'd like to invite everybody to come out to. Rosa Parks, we're giving a special recognition to. Her actual birthday was February the 4th. We're recognizing her because as we think about a month ago, Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday, which is a national holiday, one of the very quiet voices that led to many of the successes that we see today was a result of Rosa Parks sitting down on a bus, and that led to the Montgomery bus boycott back in 1954. I want to encourage us to understand that there's value in understanding the African American community and the history of African Americans as they've contributed both here in Oregon, in Salem, and nationally. This play, I think, will be a very enjoyable evening that I'd like to invite everyone to participate in. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Tarver.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Perry. And my name is Chris Tarver. I live at 1555 Royalty Drive, Northeast in Salem. You know I'm here from McKay. My son attends there. Every time I hear the school mentioned here at the board meetings, it makes me feel good. And you know, we're part of a booster club I'm involved in. We're working hard to get the financing to improve the sports field. I myself, not trying to toot my own horn, but I've been privileged enough to be a part of the, excuse me, the task force that's been put together to identify the needs at the schools around town. You know, there's many of them at many of the schools, but I'm glad to see that the schools in Northeast Salem are being looked at with much more consideration than I guess maybe in the past has been given. I will I will be continuing to follow through after the task force is done. I'm trying to weasel my way into finding out the next step, getting involved with the polling. I mean, McKay is a special school. It's just always going to have a special place to me, not because my kids will go there, but because it's really given me a second chance to be involved and to get off my couch. I've mentioned that before. And to really get involved and encourage and help these kids over there see that they're going to have the opportunities that we're telling them they are. And see you guys having that conversation earlier tonight. It's a good conversation. I'm glad you're having it. It's powerful stuff. Follow through. That's what I would encourage. As part of the boosters, you know, I walked into our first meeting, and our club resembled the board, and still does. How we change that, you know, go out and try to get people involved. Go outside your box. Try to find a way to communicate with someone who maybe doesn't speak the same language as you or as well as you. You know, there's ways. And if you really want to reflect your students and your community, you'll go the extra mile, and you'll make sure that people feel like they're included. And just to close up real quick, Mr. Williams, I'm 100% behind that. I'm a child of multiracial parents, and we need to make sure that the black students are graduating. Thank you very much, folks.
Thanks. Shelley Enninger?
Good evening, Madam Chairperson, members of the board, as well as Superintendent Perry. I am Shelley Ahinger. I am a parent in the district. My child is in the 7th grade at the mighty Leslie Middle School. I am not here tonight to complain about what I think is one of the best middle schools in the state. We have had some issues, but it's been no problem to go to Mr. McCarthy, his staff, and say to them, let's sit down and talk about it. He and I have had many one-on-one conversations, and we have parents that are involved in the school, and we're happy to be the model for the district if needed. However, I'm here tonight to make certain that you are aware of the fact that you may be losing your middle school football programs. And I say that because I'm here representing over 500 parents who make up the South Saxon Youth Football League. We are part of the Tualatin Valley Football League, and we have some concerns in regards to why the middle school program is not meeting our needs at this particular time. Most of them in regards to safety. No one wants a child to be injured. And at this particular time, we cannot find within the district policy where you have your staff certified in basic safety training. I myself am USA trained in heads-up football. I myself am also trained in both using an AED and other safety measures. And when I go to a practice or I go to a school or go to a middle school football game, you don't have those abilities there, not even just a basic AED. The program itself is just void. It's like it's a one-year program, and therefore we really don't have to put a lot of effort. And I'm not talking about an individual. I'm talking about from a district-wide standard. There is no consistency there. And we need consistency for this program to be run so that all children will have the same opportunity to succeed as an athlete, a student athlete. The other thing is the fact that we don't have success amongst our students. Because if you had that athletic program, you would be able to build into some academics so that those children can graduate who choose to play. We are also concerned that your staff may not be hearing us, Superintendent Perry, and we certainly don't expect you to carry the entire burden, but this has been known for some time. This is not the first year that middle school has been in this, but we are seriously considering asking our children to not play 8th grade football. And that's serious for this district. It's not that we want to, but we just don't know where to go to next to get the ears open so that people will listen to our concerns and we can work together to address them. Therefore, I'm asking the board members to please contact your high school coaches regarding the need for improvement at the middle school level. I'm also asking you to contact your local youth sports program officials. Of course, if you know anything, you know right now that there's one at Sprague, there's one at West, there's one at McNary. So there are plenty of people that you can talk to who will give you, from their perspective, what's going on. In addition to that, Superintendent Perry, we encourage you to please have an in-depth conversation with district staff that are in charge of athletics. And it's not that they don't want, I just don't know if they feel they're empowered to make some changes, but we are asking that those changes be looked at, and not in 10 years, not a strategic plan 20 years, but we're talking about let's sit down now so something can happen this fall. You also are all invited to a parent meeting at Leslie Middle School. We have scheduled it with our principal, our person who's in charge of athletics for our 8th grade middle school, and our parents. It's scheduled for February the 27th at 6:30 p.m. in the choir room. And I promise you, I won't try to sing a note, but we will be there to be open with our ears and be able to come on one accord. If you have any questions, as I said, I'm not here representing myself. I'm here representing 500 parents, and we would appreciate your listening to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That is the end of the list signed up to speak on non-agenda items. The next thing on our agenda is board report on activities. Paul?
I would like to commend the North Salem High School drama program for its rendition of Singing in the Rain, and the McKay High School drama program, sorry, Marty, for its rendition of High School Musical, both of which were great productions, and also the middle school honors band program. It was great. I even had good company to sit with. Kelly slept through most of it, so it was
Chris?
Got a couple things. I attended the, I guess it was a town hall would be the best term for it, that Kurt Schrader did with locally. What he does is he does a presentation to people who are locally elected leaders. And so there were school board members there, city council members there, mayors there, different folks from around the valley. And there was a lot of talk about the third bridge and how to pay for it, and there was a lot of that kind of stuff. But one of the reason I want to report on it is because I would guess almost half of the questions had to do with education and how we're going to move ahead with education in our area. And I just want to report that I felt pretty good about what Schrader was talking about and what he sees happening at the federal level. He was very reassuring that agencies and bureaucracies are agencies and bureaucracies, and that we're not going to see huge, massive changes because we have a different administration for 4 years or 8 years. And people, I think, left feeling pretty good about the way he's looking at things. I want to also report that the Racial Justice Organizing Committee that I've started to attend, partly as a school board member, but partly because I'm just interested in what they're up to, is there's a study committee. It's sort of odd that I applied, or that I decided I was going to be part of the education committee for RJOC, but that's what I decided on. And we are participating in a series of 6 webinars, national webinars on the Black Lives Matter platform, so that people can be well informed about what they're really talking about, rather than relying on the news and what the news might tell us. And if you're interested in learning more about Black Lives Matter and what their agenda is, just ask me and I'll tell you when the next one is, and you can come join us. Couple things sort of for the future. Awesome 3000, we've started working on it again. I'm always looking for volunteers from my area, and it's on, this year it's the first Saturday of May, as it always is. I think that's the 7th or 8th this year. And be really happy if you walked up and said, yeah, I'll help you at the finish line. The last one that I have is that this Friday at noon at Mission Mill, we're going to have a presentation. The City Club is having a presentation on our CTEC program, and John Honey and Christy will be there, and some students are going to inform our community more about what's going on at CTEC, and then they're going to have a sign up so that the community members can go out and tour the facility. So if you're interested in coming and listening to that presentation and interacting with the community around CTEC, see you at noon on Friday at Mission Mill.
Rick?
I want to do a little editorial on Paul's sharing. It was the middle school honors choir and orchestra and honors band, all three. And I was there in the crowd with Paul, not near him because I do fall asleep and I didn't want to lean on Kelly. So, but it was a great performance. This was my first time going. I've heard middle school and other situations, but first time at the honors, and it was a good performance.
I attended a couple of things at South. I'm on the Counselor Advisory Committee, and it is just absolutely amazing what that counseling department is doing and what the needs are. And they're stretched really thin. They're doing great work. You just need to get them help, I think. Also, I went to the South DECA presentations. DECA is, it isn't really an acronym for something, I think, but it's a business group. And South every year does really well at state and does well nationally, and these kids came and did their presentations, and the man that I was watching them with, who's very experienced at this, said, you know, in 3 days, they'll be so much more polished at this. And they blew me away with the level of sophistication and the polish that they had. And he thought that this was just the beginning. They were going to get much better at it. So I think those are the things I attended. I think the board has some things that we would like to say to Mary. So
Do you want to stand right here?
I thought a little bit about making you stand right here, but I decided that maybe we wouldn't do that to you. I would like it if you could like sneak yourself around so you're not completely hidden behind Kelly. Anybody want to kick it off?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like to be first sometimes. Ooh, yes. Mary, you've been awesome. You've been a great resource for a new board member, and I really appreciate you, and I'm going to miss you.
Chris?
The thing that I am going to miss is your institutional history. Mary's been around this district a long time, and when we have conversations about how it used to be and how it's evolved to what it is now, she's the one that knows, and I don't know how we're going to function without that history.
We'll call Jim and ask him for a little bit of time with Mary.
That's right.
Whoa. I guess it's my turn. I'll say thank you, Mary, for all your help, and we've known each other a long time. Our history goes way back, and maybe not always been positive, but always been productive.
I think we'll just go in order. That'll give Jim the last word. He likes that, you know. I had a number of things. The stability and history, the institutional history. You know, there's been just so much change even in my time on the school board, and Mary's been that rock. At times there's been, when it seems like, how can we get through this? Whether that's budgets. My first few years, the budgets were so horrible, and having that piece of history that, we've been here before, we've gotten through it, we will get through it. your patience. Never once did you ever say to me when I asked a question, as I explained to you yesterday when you asked the same question, you always very patiently answered the question, which was always appreciated. I personally will miss you and hope that even though you're moving across town, that you won't be a stranger to us and that you will answer the phone when we say, can you remind us about this? Thank you.
So we're going, okay.
We're
so
going in order. It's your turn.
So the longest sitting board member doesn't get to go last, huh? Okay. Thank you, Mary. 12 years is coming up on for me and working with you as a board member. I've watched you work with, I think, 13 or 14 other community members who've been on this board with me, and always been great to work with every one of those individuals with our different personalities and perspectives. You've been very tolerant of us, and we appreciate it. Thank you, and best wishes on your next step on your career.
So I guess I'm the bad guy in the room, huh? I knew I wanted to hire Mary the minute we did the superintendent search together. She kept me as board chair that year, focused, organized, on time, on task, and everything that needed to be done to herd these 6 people to get a superintendent on board, and even stuck with us when we said, we got to go back out, Mary. But I knew I wanted to hire you right away. So thanks for everything you do here. I'll see you tomorrow because you got things to do at the office. And for those of you that don't know, while Mary's leaving the Salem-Keizer School District, she's going to work for me at the Oregon School Boards Association to bring her expertise to a state level to help other school boards as well. So she's not leaving the work. She's, I won't say she's stepping up, but she is going to be an asset to the association and to school boards across the state. So I really appreciate it. Thanks for everything you've done here, and thanks for everything you're going to do in the future with me.
Madam Chair, may I have a word?
You may.
Not very many people get to work with someone of Mary's caliber for 25 years. We grew up together in this business. I remember when you were in the office of Homer Kearns, and the issues then, I think we could write a book together, and I will miss you sorely.
Did you want to say something? You're grabbing your mic.
She wants the last word.
I just wanted to say it's been an honor and a privilege to work in this district, and I applaud the work that not just staff does, but the board as well. 42,000 kids count on you day in and day out, and that's pretty awesome work, and I appreciate it. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
I have no comments. Mary and I have had several moments today, so this is not the day for superintendent comments, but thank you, Mary.
With that, we are adjourned.